everybody, welcome back to Pediatric Therapy Essentials. My name is Dr. Heather Sossaman and I'm a pediatric physical therapist. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about 5 simple ways that kids can strengthen their leg muscles, so stick around. Hi everybody and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome and thank you so much for stopping by today. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. Well, in last week's episode, I gave you guys 5 simple ways to strengthen gluteal muscles in kids. And we talked about what the glute muscles are, what they do, and why they're important. Well, in this week's episode, we're going to move further down the body and talk about 5 simple ways to strengthen leg muscles in kids. And we're going to talk about what those big groups of muscles are in the legs and why they're so important. There are lots of muscles in our legs, but for the purposes of today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 large groups of muscles that really help kids with their mobility and play skills. The first is the quadriceps, second, hamstrings, and third are calf muscles. So let's dive in. All right, so the first group of muscles on our list is the quadriceps muscles. And as the name suggests, the quadriceps is made up of 4 smaller muscles. The first is the rectus femoris, and this is the muscle that runs down the middle of your thigh. Then we have the vastus medialis, which runs down the inner portion of our thigh, and the vastus lateralis, which runs down the outer portion of our thigh. The fourth part of the quadriceps is the vastus intermedius, and it actually sits underneath that middle muscle, the rectus femoris. The middle portion of our quadriceps, which is our rectus femoris, begins on our pelvis, while the other 3 muscles start on our femur, which is the large bone in our thigh. All 4 of the muscles converge into what's known as our patellar tendon, which is a tendon that runs over the front of your knee, and insert themselves into the larger bone in our calf, which is our tibia. All 4 of our quadriceps muscles work together to extend or straighten our knee. But our rectus femoris crosses our hip joint because it starts on our pelvis, so it also helps to flex or bend our hip. And the vastus medialis, which is the muscle that runs on the inner portion of our thigh, also helps to keep our kneecap or our patella in the right position when our knee is moving. Okay, our next group of muscles is our hamstring muscles, and these muscles sit on the back of our thigh, kind of in the opposite position of our quadriceps. And the hamstrings are made up of 3 smaller muscles. The first is our semitendinosus, and this muscle runs down the middle portion of the back of your thigh. Next, you have the semimembranosus, which runs down the inner portion of the back of your thigh, and the biceps femoris, which runs down the outer portion. The hamstring muscles begin on our pelvis and insert in the bones in the lower portion of our calf, which is our tibia and our fibula. The most important job for the hamstring muscles is to bend our knee. But because they begin on our pelvis, they also act in different capacities to extend our hip. Our last group of muscles are our calf muscles, and that's made up of our gastrocnemius and our soleus. The gastrocnemius is the larger muscle that sits closer to the skin, and when someone has a really defined calf with that bulge in the upper portion of their lower leg, that's usually the gastrocnemius that you're seeing. And the gastrocnemius begins on the lower portion of our thigh and inserts itself into our heel via the Achilles tendon, which many of us are familiar with. The second muscle in our calf is the soleus, and this muscle sits behind our gastrocnemius, and it does not cross our knee joint. In fact, it begins on the back of our tibia and inserts itself to our heel via that same tendon, the Achilles tendon. The gastroc and soleus work together to perform an action called plantar flexion, which is a fancy way of saying the motion that your ankle makes to point your toes. So it makes your foot push down towards the floor. Because the gastroc also crosses our knee joint, it also participates in knee flexion like our hamstrings do. Now that we're familiar with some of the large muscle groups in our legs, Let's take a look at 5 simple exercises kids can do to strengthen those muscles. And just like in last week's episode, we're going to demonstrate each exercise with my trusty assistant Connor, and then he's going to put all 5 of them together for you in a short 5-minute workout. So let's check them out. Our first exercise is the squat. Getting the correct form when performing a squat can take a little practice, but it's well worth the effort. The squatting motion is something we use every time we pick up a heavy object. Learning how to squat properly can preserve your joints and prevent back injuries. To perform a squat, stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Slowly bend your knees while sticking your bottom out as if you were going to sit down in a chair. You should feel the majority of your weight in your heels. If you're having difficulty understanding this concept, try placing a magazine or thin book under the front of your toes. This small shift really pushes your weight back on your heels and helps you understand the feeling. When we perform a squat, we're using many of our leg muscles, so they're great for overall strengthening. Some of the muscles that are actively involved in the motion are our quads, glutes, adductors, and soleus. And others are keeping the body stable during the movement, like our abdominals, hamstrings, glutes, and our gastroc. Our next exercise is the lunge. Kids use a movement similar to lunges when they're getting up and down from the floor using the tall and half kneeling positions that we talked about a few weeks ago. So using this position to strengthen is great practice for that real-life skill. Please keep in mind, however, that lunges need to be performed with correct position to keep joints safe. To perform a lunge, take a large step forward with one leg. Slowly bend both knees so that the rear knee comes close to the floor. Be sure that the front knee does not pass the foot on the floor. Push back up into the standing position and repeat on the other side. Lunges are a great strengthening exercise because they use all of the large muscle groups we talked about today, our quads, hamstrings, and calves, and it works on balance and coordination. Our next exercise is step-ups. Stepping up and down from a bench is a great way to practice a functional activity like stair climbing and curbs while getting a little bit stronger. When performing step-ups, be sure the step isn't too high as it can put undue stress on the knee. I like to start with a step that is about mid-calf range, but the height of the step should not place your hip in more than 90 degrees of flexion. To perform a step-up, place one foot on the step and lean your upper body forward. Push up through your legs to step up onto the bench. When stepping down, be sure to keep the motion slow and controlled. Step-ups are a great way to strengthen your quads, hamstrings, and glutes. Next up is toe raises. This simple exercise can both strengthen the muscles in your calf while working on your balance. Anytime you need to grab something off a high shelf, you have to be able to stand on your toes for balance. So, to perform a toe raise, stand with your feet shoulder width apart. If you have balance challenges, place your hands on a counter or table for support. Slowly raise up onto your toes and then slowly lower yourself back to the floor. It's as simple as that. Next, we have jump turns. Kids love to jump around when they play, whether it's a game like hopscotch or jumping down from play equipment. Children just love to jump. And the greatest thing about jumping is that it uses all of those big muscle groups we talked about. Jumping activities not only strengthen the muscles of the leg, but they help improve balance and coordination skills as well. So, practice quarter turn or half turn jumps to strengthen those muscles. When learning to jump, be sure to start with your feet shoulder width apart. Use your arms to help propel you up. Once you've mastered jumping straight up, try adding a turn for more difficulty. Begin with a quarter turn and then progress to a half. Now that you know how to do all the exercises, let's put them together for a quick workout. We'll take 5 exercises and do each one for 50 seconds with a 10-second rest in between. Are you ready? As always, if you have any questions or want further information on the muscles and exercises that we talked about today, jump on over to my website, pediatrictherapyessentials.com, and check out the blog post that goes along with today's video. While you're there, please be sure to pop over to the store and check out the handouts available that go along with today's video. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, the greatest compliment you can give me is a thumbs up and a comment to let me know what you thought. If you think you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you can find out when my next video goes live. And if you'd like some more pediatric therapy essentials in your life, please be sure to check us out on social media: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Bye!